Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to News 3 Now, live at 4 on this Tuesday. Waiting for the snow to start.
The snow and a little freezing rain is what's concerning.
And look, you were asking earlier, there's an ice storm warning for Chicago.
Yeah, just south of us, things are going to get pretty nasty.
Sounds bad.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the weather in just a bit. But first, here's what's making news on this Tuesday. And the games begin at the state capitol with the governor and Republican lawmakers coming up with competing tax cut plans. Rose Schmidt will sort it all out for us.
The State of the Union address is tonight at the nation's capital. The president is preparing for his second address to the nation. We'll talk about what to expect. And after a brutal assault on campus, students and parents question why an alert wasn't sent out. Let's take a look outside today. It didn't feel too bad.
No, the sun was out for a while this morning. Fishermen out on the ice. Slick roads ahead, however. We got some weather moving in, and Dana Fulton's in the backyard. Has it started yet?
It has not started yet for us in Madison, but if you look towards Platteville and all of Grant County, they're currently seeing some light snowfall and some freezing rain and drizzle when you get into eastern Iowa and towards Dubuque. That mix starting to shift into that direction. But for Madison right now, a cloudy sky. It is a little gusty currently, but not seeing anything falling from the sky for us. Again, the southwest corner is where that moisture is entering right on in. And it's going to continue to slide east across the state. Everybody will be seeing just a little bit of snow and mix tonight. The question is how much is actually going to mix into your area. Temperature-wise, it's colder outside than where we were at 24 hours ago. About a 10-degree drop in Madison, 18-degree drop in Milwaukee. That puts us at 25 in Madison right now. And with that breeze factored in, it feels closer to 13. So it is going to be a very cold evening. Along with the moisture coming in, I would recommend an indoor plan for your Tuesday night. Through the next several hours, our temperatures, of course, are going to fall for us, but then we're going to hold fairly steady overnight, only getting to the low 20s officially for our overnight lows. And then we're going to drop yet again with temperatures by the end of the week. But first, we got to get through, of course, the messy weather ahead for tonight and for Wednesday night. I do want to look at the roads right now because that is going to be a concern for us for the evening. Right now, overall, things actually look okay for much of Dane County. That little triangle there is a blockage on the left shoulder. Looking towards 151, but downtown Madison, the usual traffic and congestion, a few brake lights, but no accidents report. Eastbound on the Beltline starting to see a little bit of a slowdown, but westbound right now looks just fine. If we look northwest into Sauk County and up towards the Dells right now, again, all looking green, and same goes into Rock County and also Jefferson County right now. Drive time's about 27 minutes from the Beltline to Janesville. Middleton to Sauk City will take you 16 minutes. Downtown to Sun Prairie at about 18 minutes. So that drive time increasing just a little bit. It's not due to any accidents, just the brake lights and a few more folks getting on the roads for their Tuesday evening. So the snow that will be moving in tonight may mix with a little bit of freezing rain, and that's not a good combination for our roads. We'll be taking a closer look at what your morning commute may look like in just a few minutes.
All right, we'll check back in just a little while. Thanks, Dana.
First at 4, there is disagreement today over the best way to pay for a state middle income tax cut.
Wisconsin Republicans and Democrats have introduced competing proposals. Our Rose Schmidt is live at the state capitol to explain. Rose?
Yeah, so Republicans are rushing their tax cut plan through the state legislature, and they plan to vote on it in committee tomorrow. But Governor Evers says he won't sign it. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos testified before a joint hearing today on his $340 million middle-income tax cut bill. It's similar to what Evers proposed during his campaign, but Republicans plan to pay for it using a one-time budget surplus. Evers and Democratic lawmakers proposed funding their $415 million tax cut partially by capping a manufacturing and ag tax credit for manufacturers. Evers and Vos are each criticizing the other's funding solutions.
Well, right now I cannot support a plan that has no plan for funding in the future. I mean, they would be using money that needs to be used in other areas for starters.
It seems to me that we have been the ones who are much more open to compromising so far, because he has basically said the only way he will sign a tax cut is if he can raise taxes on others. Well, he knows that's a non-starter with us.
The average savings under the GOP plan is about $170 per filer, while the average under Evers' proposal is about $225. And the full state assembly is on track to take up that GOP bill on February 12th, but we have not heard yet whether the Senate will take it up as well. Back to you.
As we said, let the games begin. Rose Schmidt reporting live for us from the state capitol. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you, Rose. In just a few hours, President Trump will give the State of the Union address in front of a joint session of Congress and the American people. The White House says the president's message will be one of unity. Kenneth Craig has more from Capitol Hill.
The President of the United States.
The stage is set here on Capitol Hill for President Trump's State of the Union address. The president is expected to hit several major themes, including border security.
He is as committed today as he's ever been to making sure we get real border security. That includes a wall, and he'll make that case tonight.
But the speech comes at a time when there's uncertainty in Washington over whether the government will avoid another partial shutdown. The president says he's not interested in any budget deal from the bipartisan conference committee if it does not include wall money.
Stay out of it. Let the Senate and House work their way.
Senate Republicans have also pulled away from the president recently, speaking out against his suggestion he'll declare a national emergency to get money for the wall.
The national emergencies that have been issued in the past have not been contentious. I'm pretty sure that this one would be.
President Trump is looking to strike a chord of unity in his speech, but it comes after he sharpened attacks on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in a Sunday interview with CBS Face the Nation.
I think Nancy Pelosi is doing a terrible disservice to the people of our country.
Tonight, Speaker Pelosi will be seated behind the president next to Vice President Mike Pence. Rising Democratic Party star Stacey Abrams, who lost her bid to become Georgia's governor, will deliver the official Democratic response to the address. On Capitol Hill, Kenneth Craig for News 3 Now.
Two other responses are expected after the State of the Union, which begins at 8 o'clock tonight. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders will give a response, and California Attorney General and former Congressman Xavier Becerra will give a Spanish-language response.
And Wisconsin's 2nd District Congressman Mark Pocan remains hopeful a government shutdown can be avoided in the coming days. His special guest tonight is Aisa Olivares, the staff attorney for the Community Immigration Law Center. Pocan wants to raise awareness of the many challenges immigrants face under the Trump administration.
I'm sure he's going to, in some ways, bring up his continued quest for the wall. He's probably going to talk about things that various immigrants have allegedly done in the country, and hopefully he'll talk about things that can unify the country, although based on his Twitter account, even today, those things are hard to find.
And as we mentioned, CBS News Live coverage of the State of the Union begins at 8 o'clock. You can see it right here on WISC-TV. As Madison police continue to keep extra patrols in the Langdon Street area, some UW-Madison students and parents are wondering why they were not notified of a substantial battery to a student right when it happened.
A WISC alert was not sent out when this happened on Sunday morning. Our Amanda Quintana is live on Langdon Street with more details. Amanda?
Yes, well, this is where that stranger assaulted the student. He beat her and then dragged her down this hill toward Lake Mendota. Police are now looking for that man. They released surveillance video, a photo of him from a surveillance camera nearby here. They say this case is the department's top priority. Many parents are concerned since a lot of students, including the fraternity and sorority members, live here. Some of those students are wondering why they weren't sent that WISC alert when it happened.
Kind of concerning that this stuff happens like all the time, and we didn't even find out until like the next day. And like people were probably out when it was happening.
When you think WISC alert, you think about something that's emergency oriented, happening now, and there's something that you can do to protect yourself.
The Langdon area is not technically campus property, so it's Madison Police's jurisdiction. UW police say WISC alerts are for incidents on campus, and they also didn't have enough information to send out an alert. They did send an email to students, but that was at about 6 p.m. the next day. Now, UW police and Madison police were here on Langdon Street last night. They met with about 200 sorority members to talk to them about different ways that they can be safe, including making sure that you're looking out for your friends, the buddy system, and always just being alert of your surroundings.
Be safe indeed. Amanda Quintana reporting live from Langdon Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. An Arizona nurse who is charged with sexually assaulting an incapacitated woman was back in court today for his arraignment. Wearing an orange prison jumpsuit, Nathan Sutherland pled not guilty in court to charges that he raped a 29-year-old patient in his care at Hacienda Healthcare in Phoenix. Staff at the facility were caught off guard when the woman gave birth in December.
Mr. Sutherland, just as you and I are, is entitled to due process of law. Mr. Sutherland is entitled to constitutional protections.
My understanding is that he gave the DNA sample after he found that there was a court order which compelled him to give that. He did not volunteer to give a DNA sample.
In a statement, Hacienda Healthcare said Sutherland went through an extensive background check when he was hired, and they added they are troubled beyond words to think that a licensed nurse could be capable of seriously harming a patient. Sutherland remains in jail on $500,000 bond.
Pope Francis wrapped up his landmark trip to the United Arab Emirates with Mass at the birthplace of Islam. Tens of thousands lined the streets of Abu Dhabi to cheer Pope Francis on the final day of his visit to the Arabian Peninsula. An estimated 180,000 came to watch the first ever papal mass in that city. The Pope's message of peace went out to the audience of mostly Catholics living in the region, but thousands of Muslims also showed up. Stocks climbed to two-month highs today ahead of the State of the Union address. The Dow Industrials gained 172 points, ending the day at 25,411. The NASDAQ Composite Index was up 54 and the S&P 500 added 12. In Boston, over 1 million Patriot fans celebrated their team's 6th Super Bowl victory.
A huge duck boat parade snaked through downtown Boston. There's Tom Brady, the quarterback. The fans started lining the route well before sunrise, and they didn't have to bundle up. It was a beautiful day in Boston today. Balmy temperatures in the 60s greeted the fans and players.
And while one sports season is ending, another one's about to begin. The Milwaukee Brewers are packing up and heading to spring training in Phoenix, Arizona. The crew will spend just over a month at spring training, and in just 51 days, count them down, the crew will start the 2019 season on March 28th as the St. Louis Cardinals come to Milwaukee for opening day.
Bring on the sausages.
51 days.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, it's going to be it may be a week late because of the government shutdown, but President Trump delivers his second State of the Union address this evening.
When we come back, it will be a very different audience filling the House chamber with Democrats now in charge. We'll find out what to watch for during tonight's speech when we talk to a UW professor. That's when Live at 4 continues.
President Trump delivers his second State of the Union address to the nation tonight at 8 o'clock.
It's 1 week later than originally planned because of the partial government shutdown. So what can we expect tonight? Michael Wagner is an assistant professor in the UW School of Journalism and an expert on elections, the media, and American politics. He joins us from his home in Madison this afternoon. Michael, thanks for having us over. Your office on campus has been flooded and it sustained some damage, I understand.
It did, yeah. My office and the offices of my colleagues and our graduate students and staff are all underwater, but recovering now, but we can't really get in there for at least today, and hopefully we'll get back in and be able to teach courses in our building again soon, but we're doing our best to dig out.
Well, very generous of you to have us to your house this afternoon. Thank you for doing this. This is the first time President Trump is going to face a divided Congress, and he's going to go before a newly elected Democratic majority in the House, and the speech also comes 10 days before another possible partial government shutdown. So what can we expect tonight, and do you think, given the circumstances, it'll raise more interest in the address tonight?
I think it will raise some interest because President Trump clashed with the new Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, over the shutdown. Trump blinked first and kind of lost that first battle with the Speaker, and so I think people are very interested to see what it will be like when he takes the stage with Speaker Pelosi and Vice President Pence sitting right behind him as he lays out his vision for the next year in his State of the Union tonight. So high drama, high stakes. The government could shut down again, as you say, in just a little bit over a week, and so we'll probably hear calls for bipartisanship, especially now that there's a divided government. We'll certainly get credit claiming and bragging from the president about things he'll tout as accomplishments, and then we'll hear him lay out his agenda for the next year, which I think will involve immigration, will involve infrastructure, perhaps some bipartisan conversation, and also maybe even some talk about abortion, which has been in the news of late as well.
What do you think he really needs to accomplish tonight to get this government operating again?
Well, State of the Union speeches are a chance when the president can let people know there are things that have gotten accomplished. Public opinion of the president is pretty low. Public opinion of government in general isn't great right now, and so touting what the government has accomplished is something you can do in the State of the Union. You can lay out your vision of the future, but also call upon the people to participate in the governing of the future. And so some of the best State of the Unions tend to have an appeal to the public to participate in some kind of way. And oftentimes presidents go on a little barnstorming tour after they give the speech, and so it'll be interesting to see if President Trump follows that strategy or follows one of his own, which is a hallmark of his service as president.
It's always interesting to watch, what statements get applause, who stands up, who doesn't. I mean, the people watching is usually pretty good.
It really is. Usually the president's party is full-throated and excited and clapping and cheering and standing, and then you'll see the other side often sitting on their hands, but every so often clapping, sometimes ironically clapping at the president and mocking the president in some way. That's happened to President Obama and President Trump, among others who give this speech. And so there are times when everybody stands up and cheers, and there are more times when one side is happy and the other side is sitting on their hands and scowling.
Do you think this is the opening argument for the president's reelection? Many of the Democrats who have already announced for 2020 will be in the gallery tonight.
They will, and I'm sure we'll get lots of cuts on television to the folks who are running for president who are sitting in the chamber, folks who would like to be standing at the dais a couple of State of the Unions from now as President Trump gives his speech. And so that's always an interesting part of this. Many senators think they ought to be president, and this year is no different. And so it's always an opportunity as well for the president, as you say, to lay out the beginning of the vision for the re-election campaign. It's a 2-year campaign cycle in many respects, and laying out the vision now helps presidents try to claim credit if they're able to accomplish some of the things that they lay out in those earlier State of the Unions.
It's a week late, but we'll see what happens tonight. The speech begins at 8 o'clock our time. Michael, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Great to see you. Best of luck with your office.
Well, many people believe robots will become a regular part of our daily lives.
Coming up after Dana's forecast, wait until you see what they're being taught.
They're machines that can learn new skills. I'm Chris Martinez with how teachable robots could revolutionize the way we live.
Well, take a look at this. A man in Texas led police on a slow-speed chase across farm fields near Corpus Christi while he was riding a John Deere tractor. 45-year-old Alan Badd had an existing felony charge for stalking. After an hour-long chase, Badd was taken into custody, taken to the county jail, where he remains without bond for aggravated assault of a peace officer and evading arrest. Nothing runs like a deer.
At least get some work done in the field if you're gonna,
put the plow down. And it's Happy Weather Person's Day, Dana.
Yes, thank you, guys.
And our friends at Cookies by Design, Dawn and John, sent this lovely display.
They sent this fantastic display to the entire News 3 Now weather team. Of course, we've got a little Gary, a Hattie, a Chris, a Dave, and then myself. So I'm on a cookie, as Dave said. Now our moms officially know we made it.
We'll have to send them the new logo.
Yeah, they have the old logo. They haven't got the update. That was just 2 days ago.
It was fine.
Thanks so much. Boy.
Yes, thank you.
Don't bite Dave Caulfield's head off.
Don't do it. Don't
or
do
the cookie either.
It smells. It smells like sugar. I'm gonna have to call dibs on one of those oatmeal cookies.
Well, you got to save the one of yourself.
Yeah.
Got to freeze that or something.
Right. I can freeze that. I can knock that away. It'll be safe and tight. So yes, we got. This just came into the newsroom.
That's very
and
nice.
It's very nice of them. So thank you so much.
And we have this story. The Time of London reports a study that suggests single men smell more, and women can tell.
Yep.
Susan?
The study published in the journal Frontiers in Psychology found that women rated single men's T-shirts as smellier than the shirts of men who had partners. This was an actual study.
Yes.
This was research that was actually paid for. It showed that male testosterone levels drop when men are in a relationship. Testosterone levels are linked to stronger body odor. Researchers say the strong smell could be a signal to potential partners.
I love the graphic.
That's pretty funny. Little cartoon.
I can't even see that.
Smelly guys are single.
I don't think the two are correlated, but
So you're just recently married. Has
we don't even put him on the spot. He's a
He
very
really appreciates that.
I know, right?
Has Jared smelling better now?
Is Jared smelling any better?
That's what I'm asking.
Great. So I would say that so your forecast for tonight
it's like the Oscars here. The music started.
We're moving on. Poor Jared. We're looking at light snow and freezing rain tonight. The roads are going to be just a little slick. We're going to take a look at that ice potential for the next few days in just a few minutes.
Bye.
So it is a little chilly outside right now, and also just a little cloudy for us. In downtown Madison, we're not looking at any light snow currently, but it is marching right on in. The southwest corner of the state seeing it, and it's going to be moving in for us in the next hour and a half or so. Temperatures today were actually pretty close to where we should be for this time of year. Mid-20s for our highs and the teens for our overnight lows. And we're looking at staying close to average for your Wednesday and Thursday before our temps drop off quite a bit for Friday and Saturday. But we'll look at that full forecast in just a second. Again, the edge of the moisture starting to creep into Madison within the next hour. We're really going to watch that light snow and flurries transition to maybe even some consistently standard snow, moderate snowfall for us for just a little bit. Just to the southern edge of the state, though, that snow is mixing with a little bit of rain, and that freezing rain can lead to some very messy roads for us through the rest of the evening and also into tomorrow morning, because temperatures tonight are going to be below freezing. We stay below freezing, so any sort of moisture that does fall is, of course, going to be frozen overnight. I know my sidewalks had some very icy spots this morning. Hopefully all of yours have the salt down, as you're going to need it as we head into tomorrow. We have alert days in the forecast still for tonight, your Wednesday and Thursday. Because of the light snow and freezing rain that will be coming in tonight, we may see some minor snow and ice accumulations coming through, but most of the focus, with especially the ice, is for late Wednesday and into early Thursday morning. That freezing rain and snow is going to redevelop late in the day on Wednesday, and then for Thursday we're expecting that the ice to mix to just snow early on, and the moisture is going to wrap up at the end of Thursday. Overall winter weather, we do expect to see a winter weather advisory throughout southern Wisconsin until 6 a.m. on Wednesday. Looking down to northern Illinois, though, we have an ice storm warning that's in effect because they're expecting to see more freezing rain and ice accumulation as we get into tomorrow morning. As you saw on the radar, that freezing ice trend is to the south. Looking at our future track with the big picture, that freezing ice stays just right across northern Illinois and towards Chicago. Light snowfall expected to continue into early tomorrow morning, but for much of the day tomorrow, we're actually expecting a quiet scene. By Wednesday afternoon, more moisture comes into the eastern side of Iowa and starts to move into Wisconsin, and we're going to look at some freezing rain mixed with light snow throughout the morning on Thursday, transitioning slowly to light snow and tapering off for us later in the evening. Overall snowfall potential is pretty minimal as we get into Wednesday morning. Just under an inch possible for Madison. Most of the accumulation, though, is really going to stay north of Madison. I wouldn't be surprised if we're closer to just a few tenths of an inch for us for accumulation totals to start off on Wednesday. Ice, though, is certainly the bigger concern. Not expecting a lot of accumulation, maybe a few hundredths of an inch, up to a tenth of an inch possible for us around Madison as we look ahead to Wednesday morning. Thursday, though, a lot more moisture is going to come in. Our temps will be a little warmer during the afternoon on Thursday, so we are expecting more accumulation along the southern edge of Wisconsin and even stretching up into Madison. A quarter of an inch of ice is quite a bit to add up for us. Our future track getting a little closer look here. Again, that quarter of inch is right around Madison. Mineral Point also expecting similar amounts, and again down towards Janesville and towards Milwaukee, that southeast corner could see a little more ice accumulation. Closer look at our future track tonight. That line of freezing rain likely going to stay south of Madison. By your Wednesday morning commute, most of the moisture should be done falling, but we could still have some slick spots on the road. So even though it isn't freezing rain or snowing outside, there's nothing falling to start off tomorrow morning. You'll want to plan ahead. Make sure you give yourself a little extra time. Throughout the day, we'll stay fairly quiet. Temperatures will get close to freezing for our afternoon highs, and then by Wednesday night, we see that moisture creep back in, and it's going to continue throughout to your Thursday. Thursday is going to be just a little messier outside for us, and then we transition back to just light snow before things taper off. Overnight lows will fall close to 22 degrees, so just a little bit of a drop from where we're at right now. That breeze coming from the east-northeast, about 8 to 15 miles per hour. We are expecting some minor accumulation totals with that snowfall. Tomorrow we'll hit a high of 32, so right at freezing for us. That freezing rain is really going to wrap up early in the morning and then redevelop later on in the day. Those alert days are for tonight, Wednesday, and Thursday. Wednesday's concern, though, of course, is at night and early in the morning, not throughout the entire day. Temperatures will stay close to freezing for Wednesday and Thursday, and then once the moisture gets through, we cool down quite a bit. We will be in the teens for Friday and Saturday, and then a little closer to seasonal to start off next week, but a very, very cold into the week
For us, after a messy few days, unfortunately, that freezing rain could provide some issues on our roads.
Oh yeah, that's always very dangerous. Snow to the north and then big ice to the south of us.
Big ice to the south, just a quarter of an inch of ice. It's quite a bit. Yes, yes, that's more than plenty for us.
All right, be careful out there.
Yes.
Thank you, Dana.
Thanks, Dana. Well, most robots are programmed to carry out a specific function, but researchers in Arizona are developing a new generation of machines that can actually learn new skills.
As Chris Martinez shows us, these teachable robots could change how we work and live.
Tossing a ball through a hoop may not seem like a complicated task, but it's pretty impressive when you consider this robot learned how to do it.
So we provided only the goal. We did not provide the way to achieve or the means to achieve that goal.
Assistant robotics professor Henny Ben Amor leads a team of researchers at Arizona State University developing machines that can learn. Instead of being programmed to carry out a task, the robots use machine learning, a combination of algorithms and sensors that makes them teachable. The robots can adapt and react to an unforeseen situation, like this robotic arm that tries to catch a ball by anticipating where it will be thrown. It doesn't always get it right.
Close. Ideally, the robot would not take a day or a week for this, but rather a couple of hours.
The technology is helping developers design smarter robots. Take, for instance, this robot that can learn the floor plan of a house or business and be taught to pick up misplaced items it finds. Researchers say a device like this could one day clean up your home. Machine learning is also being adapted for medical use. This robotic prosthetic can analyze the nuances of how its user walks and adjust as needed.
It's learning the relationships between the human and how it should react.
Researchers believe the teachable tech will ultimately help both man and machine learn to interact. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Tempe, Arizona.
It's fascinating technology.
Fascinating and terrifying.
We're just beginning.
Yeah.
Well, buying a used car, make sure you know about its previous life.
When we come back, Consumer Reports tells you how to find those details when Live at 4 continues.
Here's a live look at Lake Mendota, frozen solid on this Tuesday, and more snow and ice on the way. Did you know that many used cars actually come from rental car companies? In fact, some people buy rental cars from used car dealerships without even realizing it.
Now, if you're in the market for a used car, you want to make sure you know exactly where it came from. Leah Linscheid and Consumer Reports explains how.
John Perry bought his used Ford Taurus 14 years ago for $12,000. With 9,000 miles on it, John thought it was a steal. But the car ultimately began to rust, raising his suspicion that there might have been more to the car's past than he knew.
I would try to touch up some rusting areas.
Consumer Reports was able to check the history of his car by using the VIN, or vehicle identification number, through Carfax, an online service which provides information about used cars. John's suspicion was correct. The Carfax report said his Ford had in fact been a rental car for 7 months before he bought it. All information John says he wished he had known.
So the 9,000 miles that were on it when I bought the car were rental car miles.
When you're buying used, it's important to know what that history is. You know, was it in a flood? Was it a rental car? Important details that may change your mind about buying it or not.
Consumer Reports also says it's a good idea to get any used car inspected by an independent mechanic before you buy it.
They can be a better indicator of the car's history and where it's at today.
John says he definitely won't buy used again without checking the car's history, and he considers himself lucky.
It could have been worse for me. Mechanically, the car has been a terrific car. It really has.
Let's do.
In addition to Carfax, consumers can also use AutoCheck to look up and see if a vehicle has had a past history that you need to know about.
That'll cost you about $30. Be aware of that. And to check for recalls, go to safercar.com. You can also get a free VIN checkup from the National Insurance Crime Bureau to see if this car has been reported as stolen or as salvaged. Buyer beware.
Do your homework. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When we come back, we all know the internet at times can be a mean place.
Yes, but is that a modern phenomenon or has it happened all along? Our guest will tell us when News 3 at 5 continues.
You could.
I can't read.
So right now we're actually looking at a bit of a slowdown on the Beltline. Much of the interstates and the rest of Dane County, though, actually in a pretty good position for us. Looking a little closer, though, at the Beltline and even downtown, we did have an accident along 151 earlier. According to 511, the Wisconsin State website, the accident, though, has since been cleared. The Beltline has reduced speeds down to just about 20 to 30 miles per hour eastbound. The westbound side, though, in a much better position. A lot of green along the westbound side. Looking to the northwest corner of the area, actually seeing a pretty smooth commute for you guys, and near Janesville as well, some slowdowns downtown, but nothing major surrounding the city or throughout Rock County. Drive times again, Middleton to Sauk City to about 21 minutes, 19 minutes from downtown to Sun Prairie, so we're slowly watching that drive time increase just a little bit, and from the Beltline to Janesville, about 26 minutes. That's a quick check of your traffic.
Thank you. Check out these guys strutting their stuff at a school in Poland, looking the part in their matching tutus. These dads show off their skills, including leaps, leg kicks, and unique combinations. The group spent a month rehearsing to put on this performance for a charity event at the school. The Dancing Dads Ballet has become a viral sensation. They're pretty good.
I love it. Yeah, that's great.
Well, have you ever wondered to yourself how we all functioned before the internet?
Yeah, how did we get through college without Google?
I don't know.
Isn't it fun to think about that? Yeah, I did too. Well, what would it look like if the modern life we have today existed 100 years ago? A new book explores that idea by taking a fictional look at what the internet might have been like a century ago. Christian Schneider is a senior reporter at the College Fix, and he is the author of the new book, 1916, The Blog. Christian, great to see you.
Congratulations on the book.
Thanks
Congratulations.
So much for having me.
So tell us what the title means.
Well, the book is essentially about what if the internet had existed 100 years ago.
And why 1916?
Well, 1916 was a really interesting year. You had the U.S. Was just about to get into World War I. Women's suffrage was a big issue at the time. Prohibition, all these kind of things were bubbling up. So it was a really interesting, fascinating time to write about.
So how did you research this?
Well, I went back and I read a newspaper from every day of the year 1916, which took a lot of time. Yeah, so I went and I was thinking to myself, what would somebody be writing about every day, you know, that we may have forgotten from that time. And so I went and I started writing it as if I was writing a blog about kind of all these little things that I found. So in the book, it's in the form of a blog, but it's all really things that actually happened. So obviously there was no internet at the time, but the examples in the book are things that really occurred.
Things like what?
There's a funny story in the book where two detectives are looking through, Milwaukee detectives are looking through a newspaper, and they see somebody running an ad for a detective agency, and they think this kind of looks like a scam. So they go down to the office and pay the guy the $2 to take the test on how to be a detective. And the guy gives him the money, and then the cops slap the cuffs on him right away. And as the guy is arrested, he says, "Well, you guys passed the test."
Oh, that's great. Who is Sebastian in the book?
He's the main character. He is supposedly my great-grandfather. That's kind of the hook of the book. But he works at a newspaper in 1916, and that's how he gets all these stories. Normally somebody wouldn't be reading all these stories, but he sees all the stories and he types them out for the newspaper, and that's kind of how he gets involved in all this stuff. And so he has to weather trolls and online dating services and conspiracy theorists and kind of all the stuff that we see on the internet now.
So they were active back then in a different form.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny, the public shaming that we see today on the internet, actually back in 1916, men chewed tobacco quite a bit and they spit all over the ground, and women had enough of that because their dresses all dragged on the ground. They didn't want this, so they would actually carry bells with them. And if they saw a man spitting on the ground, they would start ringing a bell really loud to shame them into not doing it. So men moved on to something more healthy, like smoking, which is what they thought at the time.
But that's interesting. It's kind of an interesting statement on how human nature has evolved over 100 years. Right. We're seeing, your Facebook comments or comments that people make are sort of the modern day equivalent of ringing the bell.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's online dating? Was there dating back then that you weren't meeting face to face?
Yeah, so that's actually part of the book is he gets involved. He has a choice to make between kind of a woman that he works with or a woman that he knows online that he's not exactly sure who she is. So he kind of gets in a lot of situations that he has trouble getting out of.
Would you
in that respect.
rather live now or back then?
Oh, now for sure. I mean,
why?
I mean, you just look at kind of all the conveniences that we have now, and back then when they just didn't have anything at the time. I mean,
they didn't have the internet.
But in some ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right?
Right. I mean, there was a lot more sense of community then, where you actually had to like leave your house and go talk to people and kind of that sort of thing. But yeah, I wouldn't give up the air conditioning in my house.
Yeah, I agree with you. Interesting book, 1916, The Blog, now on sale wherever you get your books.
Yep.
Christian, congratulations.
Great to see you. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back with the final check your forecast. Weather's moving in for some, already here.
Absolutely. We're starting to see that light snowfall and even some freezing mix throughout much of the southwest corner of the state. As you can see, parts of Madison may be seeing a few snowflakes right now, but the heavier snowfall is still just west of Dane County. Looking ahead through the next several hours, our temperatures are going to steadily drop a little bit more, but we're actually going to hold pretty steady, close to 22 overnight for our low, with that cloudy sky and some dicey weather conditions for the next few hours.
But warm enough for salt to work, so that's the good news.
Correct, yes, and that's just vital right now with this freezing rain coming through.
All right, coming up tomorrow here on Live at 4. Thank you, Dina. We'll head to Wanakee Brewery, which is bringing unique beer styles to Wisconsin.
And a resort in New Hampshire keeps the tradition alive of harvesting ice from a lake to use in coolers this summer. We'll have that story tomorrow. In today's final